Joysticks crackling fire in my hand. Burn the pixels, burn the land. Screaming avatars, take a stand. Join the dragon, feel the flame. Psychotic power, wild and tame. Join the dragon, Lavistro's call. Claw through the chaos, smash the wall. Gaming swords, rise or fall. Join the dragon, that's all, that's all. Button mashing till it breaks. No rules, no mistakes. This is war for the high stakes. Unleash the beast in every vein. Play our way or go insane. Join the dragon, Lavistro's call. Claw through the chaos, smash the wall. Gaming's eyes, rise or fall. Join the dragon, that's all, that's all. Join the dragon, Lavistro's call. Claw through the chaos, smash the wall. Gaming's eyes, rise or fall. Join the dragon, that's all, that's all.
I think it's nonsense.
Hey guys, have you ever had a Nutty Buddy cream pie? That sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did, when you dated black guys.
Oh my god!
Hey,
I'm
you
literally. Oh my god!
You brought it up. You said cream pie.
Stop! No! Oh,
Yes.
Straight into that one.
Yeah, you knew exactly what was gonna happen. You knew where you were.
It's new. I've never seen these before. Stop!
I gotta mute my mic.
Now crowned in streams, our empire grows. His might, our battles call. A guardian fierce, now King Jiu, Tawolezu. We faithful cheer, our summons hold. His glory we ignite. Lavistro reigns, our dragon's wrath. Lavistro, Lavistro, what game have you shown? A gooner's gaze on pixel queens. Tsugushisa wo kakan woke. Rush ni kudake. Higamichi wo kiru. Dragon Lord of Lavistro plays the streams where legends stay. Lavistro, Lavistro, goyaku ai no bobu. Wings of might, his roar resounds the dragon's game anew. Lavistro plays tonight.
Joysticks crackling fire in my hand. Burn the pixels, burn the land. Screaming at
It's nonsense.
Hey guys, have you ever had a Nutty Buddy cream pie? That sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you did, when you dated black guys.
Oh my god!
Hey,
I'm
you brought
literally.
it-
Oh my god!
You brought it up. You said cream pie.
Stop! No! Oh,
Yes.
So you walked straight into that one.
Nah, you knew exactly what was gonna happen. You knew where you were.
That's new. I've never seen these before. Stop!
I gotta mute my mic.
system glitching away. He's the boss fight you can't escape today. Breathing fire, pixels ignite. In his lair, he sets it right. Lavistro rants, lava flows, burning truth, the dragon knows. Gaming sins he won't let slide. He brings the heat, no place to hide. Lavistro rants, lava flows, burning truth, the dragon knows. Gaming sins he won't let slide. He brings the heat, no place to hide.
And we're live, everyone. Hello, hello, and welcome to a new episode for the Lavistro channel. We have Lavistro Plays, where I play video games, and that will always be my pilot episode, my bread and butter. That's the main thing. That will always be a thing. We have Dragon Cats, where we have a whole bunch of panelists that come by, and we interview them, discuss some gaming news, and then now I have no idea how often this will be, but we have Lavistro Rants, where I get to freaking rant a lot, forever, and ever, and ever. I do apologize for the lateness of the video. We have been having some issues here and there. And this was literally a last second idea because I was making some videos that I was falling behind on. And, well, let's just say I was like, fuck it. We'll just make this an episode. So if this goes well, I will definitely do this more often. So, just like everyone else, if you're watching on the YouTubes, like the stream. If you're watching on the YouTubes again, share the stream. If you're watching on Rumbles, like, share, and repost the stream. And if you're watching on X, I have no idea if you can comment or not. I never see anyone comment on X. But welcome, welcome. Please heart and retweet the stream. That being said, like I said, it was late. We were running low, and I didn't announce this because originally I was going to play a video game. But no, I got a rant because there's so much news I found out doing some more research. And I want to rant. That being said, I'm going to say hello to everyone in the chat. Yes, isn't that lovely? We do have Freedom Fighter here. Hello, Freedom Fighter 76. Yes, and thank you. I am trying to add memes to my show so people don't miss them. Yeah. Sonya might come over. I was trying to get the Goon Room over here as well because, yeah, it's a thing I want to discuss. But I could always go solo with this one. It is no concern to me. That being said, my computer will allow it. Oop, infinite screen. Why is it doing that? As always. So, we do know who these people are. And what set this off was their latest blog, the Steam Campaign Timeline. I'm not human. I'll never be human. This is from Corley Allison, and she writes, in response to the false claims and misinformation about our campaign, we're setting the record straight. Some ask why we involve payment processors, and others have claimed we are responsible for itch.io removing all NSFW content. We raised our objections to the R word and in the I word games on Steam for months, and they ignored us for months. We approached payment processors because Steam did not respond to us. So how is this a false claim? You just said you raised your objection on this, okay? And they ignored you, okay? So you go to payment processors. I found out something interesting about payment processors that we're going to cover here later on. And yes, you did see the UN symbol in there, so that's in there as well. We called on Itch.io to remove these games that we argued normalized violence and abuse for women. Fun fact, people have argued games normalizes violence, and it never does. There are so many studies out there that have debunked that claim and debunked this as well. Because gamers know this is fantasy. Now, I am not saying I defend these type of things in not real life. I just learned there's something cool and interesting that people don't realize. Shocking. It's called I don't play with it, I don't deal with it, and I ignore it. Why do I ignore it, you say? Because they have a right to it. If they're not hurting anyone, then they can do whatever they want. If there's no law against it, then there's nothing I can do about it. If there was law against it, yes, I will speak out against it. Like child crimes. Yes. Shocking. We called on Itch.io to remove those games as well. We argued normalized violence. We said that. Itch.io made the decision to remove all NSFW content. Objections were to the content that involved that and the torture of women. Well, here's the thing. We've been at this so many times. It's a big ask. You look. Let's go back. Let's go back, Carly. Let's go back in time. Oh, ban porn on X. Ban Playboy. Yeah. You can say you didn't tell them to remove those things, but your own front page literally says you want to ban that stuff. Karen. That's your intent. Do y'all know what a big ask is, chat? You know what a big ask is? Hold on, let me bring up the chat here, because apparently it doesn't want to show up. There we go. Do you know what a big ask is? A big ask is, for example, banning porn on Itch.io. So, you know that's a big ask, and they're probably not going to do that. So you ask for the smaller thing. Itch.io wants to get you out of their hair, so they go ahead and ban all NSFW, so hopefully you don't bother them. Just saying. Just saying. You can read the full timeline below. Campaign time. Male Gamer notifies us already about discovering No Mercy on Steam. He emails back and forth with Steam, but they don't take action. March 25. Hold on, let's go look that up. We're doing this live. Oh, and Steam. I don't know if I can show this. Can I? Okay, we'll read about this in a moment. We'll do that live. Collective Shout team reviews the game content, decides to write an article and see if we can support Gamer to have it removed March 29th. First blog launches actually April 27th or April 7th. Support emails Steam about those games. They send this many emails, Steam ignores. Australian Classifications Board pulls No Mercy in Australia. Okay, that's your country. You can do that. You're in Australia. It violates the law. Launch petition to Steam to remove No Mercy again. 70K signatures. Ignored. Change.org. Yeah, no one's going to listen to you there. Sorry. Media release to remove No Mercy April 10th. Developer pulls No Mercy from Steam April 12th. Female Gamer supports campaign April 13th. Supporters continue to email Game Newell to remove all those games. See, here we go. All those games. Okay. Nearly 500 other games. Team does background check. Campaign to email payment processors. May 26. We were talking about this on Dragoncast. Open letter of 8 global partners sent July 7th, 11th. Media release July 14th. Steam Fazoo policy begins leading games July 16th. Itch.io to list all 20,000 interested to review them and release a statement. Okay, July 26th. Independent Gaming Itch.io announced on Friday it had de-indexed all those contents. That's super work, all that stuff. So what they're trying to say is they're not responsible for Itch.io doing that. But as we stated, they've been at this for a while. They want to ban all porn. They want to ban all porn on X. They want to ban all this stuff. Then what's next? Stellar Blade? The First Descendant? It just keeps going downhill from there. Right? So let's go ahead and read No Mercy statement. Their World recently, and this is, I don't know when this was made, but anyways, Their World recently there has been a lot of noise about the game No Mercy. Not a lot. I'm going to go back, before we go in here, I'm going to go back. Notice here where it says 40,000 supporters taking a stand. Okay, 40,000. How many people are in the world today? How do you know the world's population? Roughly above 8 million. If you do the math, Collective Shout supporters represent not 50%, not 10%, not 5%, not 1% even. They represent 0.5. That's a 0.5% of the population of the world. As I've stated before, he who complains the loudest wears the fattest crown. And it works every fucking time. You have the PMRC. You have the Comic Books Authority. You have Prohibition. And they all ended badly and had noble intentions. For example, Prohibition. I've talked about this before. Prohibition brought in a police state. It brought a rise in organized crime. And it ended with the Saints Valentine's Day massacre. It convinced people maybe we shouldn't ratify the Constitution to censor things and ban things. Comics Book Authority. That was created because Batman was unaliving people in Minecraft. In the golden age of comics. He was literally DC's version of the Shadow. And he was still unaliving people after. Just not as much. Don't believe me? He stars KG Beast in the 80s. He toppled some cars on some drug dealers in the 80s. There are a lot of instances and examples where Batman has unalived people in Minecraft. In the comics, just get more violent and violent. This is a fact. You want another example? Let's go back to PMRC. Listen to music from before the 80s. Now listen to them today. If you ever noticed, there's an explicit sticker, Tipper Gore. Thing that are Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife. It's called a Tipper sticker. And a backlash against them, the American artists and musicians of that time period says, you know what? F you. I can do whatever I want. It's my free speech, my rights. And so they started swearing more and get more graphic. The S word, drugs, and rock and roll. That's to coin the phrase. When they banned prostitution, they inadvertently created porn. They banned porn. What's going to happen? AI. It might go from there. There might be other examples. Anyways, moving on. So they said there's a lot of noise. 3,000 emails. How many people have a Steam account? Nearly everybody. We want to address a few issues. False information about the content in the game was often repeated. People created videos and spoke with great conviction about things that weren't in it, which shows that they hadn't even launched the game. Some did just extensive quote-unquote research that they presented graphics from a completely different game. I hope that game survived this ordeal. If this is what your attempts to act in good faith look like, we deeply believe that no one will ever suffer from being wrongfully accused by you. However, think twice about whether it's worth repeating everything you've ever heard from someone and whether the information you're passing on is actually true. Better yet, do some work yourself instead of blindly chasing views. Yes, we're going to talk. I think if we have time, we're going to talk about that one too. Because apparently, to get attention and stuff, the game I believe was called Mouthwash removed itself from itch.io to allegedly, as the reports are saying, gain sympathy and awareness, a PR study, if you will. But itch.io said, yeah, we didn't remove that game. They removed it themselves. So there are people out there that'll take advantage of things for clout. We've seen this before with John Della Rose, Melanie Mack, just to name a few. There are some I can name right now that I won't. That people don't know about, that people think are awesome until they realize some things I can actually point out. Yes. Yes. I know things. I keep receipts. Secondly, many people unfortunately confuse fiction with reality, attributing fabricated stories where people play no mercy, then go out to the street and commit foul acts. This exact claim was made with GTA, Grand Theft Auto, for years, as well as Mortal Kombat for years, and other games for years, and got debunked. In general, all those who played are mentally ill and hate their mothers and women in general. That's how it's generally presented, and we completely disagree with this. During development, we conducted hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations with people who tested the game, and everyone perfectly understood the game was about and that it was a game. They were normal people. The same applies to the partners of all those who participated in the project. I guarantee that during production, no one was harmed, and we are all consider ourselves completely normal and healthy individuals. However, we are concerned about the mental health of people who sent us emails. Some of those descriptions of what you would do to us were really sick compared to what could be found in No Mercy. Yes. In fact, The Simpsons had a skit where someone actually said, if I see you on the road, I won't brake. Meaning, they'll just keep driving their car. These things have been going on for a long time. People act on emotions. And these women, according to this is what I'm assuming they're talking about, are mentally ill. They shouldn't be in charge of anything, change.org or anything. I actually have a theory on that. Let me put it this way. I'm not doing this as manufacturer rent. This is actually how I feel about this. Like, I don't like the fact I'm renting about a game in this context. All right, that I don't want to have to defend because I don't agree with certain things that it puts out there. But at the same time, I believe in everybody's rights, and I also believe that games are art, free speech, according to SCOTUS. Therefore, it has free speech protections. And as someone who used to be a soldier, I have to defend all that. War Maniac, hello. How you doing, buddy? But anyways, where was I at? Well, yes. About the famous geeks in the game. Let's start with what shocked the public opinion, the I word. Real I word is something disgusting. Yes, I think we all agree on this one. Except for maybe some people. But normal, healthy people agree this is disgusting. And we fully agree with that. However, it is also one of the most popular kinks worldwide when it comes to porno. Mainly because it's typically portrays third party strangers in no way related to the person watching it. Stepmom, stepson, stepdaughter are amongst the most frequently searched terms in pornos, which for emotional stable people is just role play. I guarantee that no one who enjoys such a fetish feels sexually attracted towards their relatives. If we want to criticize someone for enjoying watching such portrayals, I believe we're intruding too deeply into their sexual sphere. Some people like feet, some people like costumes, and some like this type of roleplay. The R word. Here also, no one wants anyone to get hurt. Exactly. Because if you do that action in real life, you're violating someone's freedom of expression and their right to live. I'm not just saying that, in the end, they are unalived in Minecraft. I'm saying they are traumatized. Their lives are forever changed. You ruined their lives. That's why in many states, the R word is, if I recall, I could be wrong, but it's usually a capital offense, usually ends up with execution. Because there are three natural rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. All have the right to the fruits of labor, gifts, or trade without force or coercion, as long as it doesn't violate the first two rights. All have the right to express themselves unforced and without coercion, as long as it doesn't violate the first. That means if you want to be gay, or lesbian, or whatever the fuck you want to be, you're allowed to do so. You can't force anyone else to do it, and they can't force you not to be. You have that right, regardless of how we feel about it. All have the right to live is the final one, which is actually the top of the list. It is the most important right of all. Only murderers forfeit that right. You take a life, your life is forfeit because you revoked your privilege and your right to live in Minecraft. However, going on to the R word, it's also strongly connected with blackmail and male domination, which is also a fetish. If someone plays with their partner at home, pretending to be a student and a teacher who demands sexual acts in exchange for a grade, should we label them as sick and call them artists and check their computer and lock them in prison? I fully understand that for many people such things may be disgusting, but during sex, people should really do what they want as long as they don't harm anyone. And yes, I think we can all agree on this. If you're going to harm someone, you need to get some help. If you're not going to harm someone, if you're trying to be safe and consensual about it, and it's all just role play, that's fine. Can a game harm anyone? According to many studies, with the emergence of the internet and pornography in the 90s, sexual crimes decreased by half. Sexual crimes decreased by half. If someone is sick, dangerous, and might actually harm someone, would playing a game or watching porno increase their desire to do so? We sincerely doubt that. They'll satisfy this need at home and perhaps save someone from harm. It's somewhat similar to shooting and playing games. It has been proven many times that games reduce the amount of violence in people rather than increasing it. Yes, it's an outlet. When I get angry, I use, especially as a younger dragon, I played Call of Duty. I played hack and slash games because I was angry. By the time I was done playing with it, I had calmed down. My anger had resided, and I was in better control of myself. Here's another fun fact I've also mentioned. Games help people with PTSD. There are treatments like prolonged exposure therapy and stuff. There are game simulators out there to help veterans with their PTSD. I'm required every day to spend at least 1 hour a day in my own personal therapy from the federal government. The Department of Veteran Affairs requires me, for my therapy, to play a video game 1 hour a day, at least. They also want me to socialize with people. Ugh. But I socialize with people. Yes. It's also very inappropriate to report that the game was available to 12-year-olds. The game is still required creating an account, selecting an appropriate option, connecting a credit card, and paying for it. So here's where we see they go to the payment processors. The plot thickens. Since so many people showed graphics from a different game, it might mean that it wasn't so easily accessible after all. Ooh, so it wasn't accessible. It debunks their argument. They're lying. Collective Shot is lying. In an era where such content is available online by typing one of the most popular porn sites, we sincerely doubt that any minor would perform such actions. Nonetheless, it's their parents. Wow. Something I've said before. It's the parents' responsibility to supervise the type of content they, being the children, access. Who will think of the children is their usual argument. Well, it's the parents. I'm a parent. My son doesn't play, watch, or consume any content I don't approve of. That's a fun fact for people. It's a very fun fact. It pisses me off that people want to take our rights away as parents, just as parents. You know, just stepping away from the gaming thing. It pisses me off that people say I can't discipline my child the way I see fit. They don't know me. They don't know my child. They don't know my child's needs. I raised that child since he was a poop factory. You know what's even funnier? If a school, a hospital, anything I have to take my son to for his development is run by women because I'm a divorced dragon, even though I put on the paperwork, I am the primary. I show them my divorce papers. I show them everything. And I say the primary point of contact is his father at this number. The secondary point of contact is the mother at this number. They won't send me an email. They won't send me a text message. They won't even call me. They call his mother. They call his mother, who literally said, and I don't want my son to hear this. His mother said at court when we were divorcing, and I had custody because she had the passport still, and the lawyer asked her in front of the judge, "Do you want, visitation hours?" She said she wanted nothing to do with our son. Why would that be a Kate thing? Why did she want nothing to do with our son? Because she found out she couldn't use my VA benefits for child support. She would have to go to the VA itself. I pointed that federal law out to the judge respectfully with my lawyer and said, I can't give them that stuff because it's federal law. You can't tell me to do this because it is out of your jurisdiction. But my ex-wife, my future ex-wife at the time, can literally go and request that information to give you. by federal law. I can't do it and you can't do it. And the VA said, yeah, none of his money was waived by federal law to get VA disability. He was medically retired and put straight up on VA disability. So, it can't be used as ruminations for employment. I was never employed by the VA. Anyways, when she found that out, she got frustrated and she said what she said. And guess what? Where I live, it's hard to get, primary custody as a father, and I got it. And I raised him. If you ever, I don't know the movie, the one with Chris Tucker in it, where he's raising a baby all by himself. That's literally me. But I was okay with it. I was medically retired. I learned how to change a diaper, all that stuff. I'm the one that goes to the parent-teacher conferences alone. I'm the one that goes and raises my child alone. I balance my family time with myself. I don't have time for myself. All right? I'm going to put that out there. I don't have time to go on dates. I don't have time to go to a convention or any of that stuff. Majority of my time is spent with my son, and the rest of my time is streaming here and playing games. I don't have a life, an adult life. I raise my son. My son's my priority. But despite all that, despite all those things, they still have the nerve to communicate with his mother instead of me. And she'll call me and say, why are they contacting me? Well, I don't know. They should be contacting me. I'll call them up and find out. And then they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were the secondary. No, I'm the primary. But it's going back to this highlighted thing here, it's my responsibility as the primary to decide what my son can and cannot do, what he can and cannot see, because children can't consent at his age. You let them out in the world, they're going to be attracted to the first shiny thing they see, and they're not going to survive. It's my responsibility to take care of my child. These Karens, for all I know, are childless. They might have sit there on coffee shops and churches, if they went to church, or parks or whatever, and saw how children were acting, and they didn't like how those children were acting, and they were trying to tell their parents, hey, you need to control that kid. I'm not talking about the kid that's throwing a tantrum because he couldn't get a stuffed animal or something like that. I'm talking about those people that see a kid being a kid and having an issue with it. But they don't want kids themselves. They want to have their own kids. So their subconscious literally makes them be mothers on adults and everyone else. I'm not kidding. They had that ingrained ability to be moms. And there's nothing wrong with being a mom. Moms are a wonderful thing. All right? People say, oh, women should be doctors, this and that. I'll say, okay, that's fair. I respect that, and I do. I respect that. But who gave birth to that doctor? It's not for that person giving birth. It's not for that person helping and supporting the person getting birth. Would that doctor be around? So who's really what is really the best profession in the world? What is really the profession that's responsible for future generations? For doctors, the best and the brightest of the world. Doctors, teachers, politicians you like, actors, celebrities. Every living being on this planet has a parent. Both good and bad beings. And usually it's the parent's responsibility to raise that child. And now that these Karens are 40 years old, 50 years old, their freaking eggs are shriveled up and their freaking milk is all powder now. And their hoo-ha's are fucking dusty as shit. And fertile, because they're old as shit. They have 50 cats that they treat as children. And now they're regretting it. Yes, go ahead and call me a sexist, misogynist, because that's literally what I advertise myself as. Because I'll say things that no one else wants to say, what other people do say, and I just never met them. Doesn't mean I hate women. Hold on. But anyways, continuing on. However, we come to the last point, which is the role of the media in various organizations as well as internet content creators. Hey, that's me. Please consider, would anyone who wasn't looking for such content hear about this game if it wasn't for... I said this a lot. I say this so many times. So many fucking times. Would anyone who wasn't looking for such content hear about this game if it weren't for hundreds of articles, petitions, and statements from content creators? I haven't said shit about it. After all, if someone believed this game shouldn't be available in their country, they could have handled it quietly. They could have reported the matter to the authorities. Meanwhile, websites used the trending topic for clicks. Organization placed links to fundraisers under petitions, and content creators made videos that garnered more views. That sounds like what John Della Rose did to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. There are quite a few people that jumped that John Della Rose bandwagon and Melanie McMagman for clout, only to get told by people who actually played it, including myself. None of that stuff was in there, and the stuff that John Della Rose and his little bandwagon had was altered and lies. They removed things and censored some things to prove their narrative. And all it took was playing the game and showing, in many cases, that in the case of those stories, those people weren't the same people as historically accurate. They were inspired by those characters. They were all addressed as being grown men, 30-year-old men, basically, 18 to 30s. I mean, listening to Henry, he don't sound like no 18-year-old. He sounds like he's in his late 20s. And if you think about it, right? If you think about it, if you're apprenticing for someone, you're probably going to be about that age before you finally get your own trade. Because it's not something that back then, it was not something that was easy to do, especially blacksmithing. So, knowing a little bit of history and context of history would also work well in this case. But no, politics is like soda. And too much soda rots your brain and teeth. And how many times have we seen that? How many times have we seen people say some of the craziest harebrained shit? The result of all this was that the game suddenly went from 1,000 visits to 100 times more in those days. There are certainly events that need to be publicized quickly when someone is actually being harmed and we can save someone. Was it really necessary in this case for those few and extra money for fundraisers? Oh, so they're talking about Collection Point because they're a fundraiser group. At this point, the game has been blocked in 3 countries, Australia, Canada, and the UK. We don't intend to fight the whole world, and specifically, we don't want to cause problems for Steam and Valve. They do a great job and are incredibly helpful. If after reading the above, you still believe that such a game should not have been created, then we sincerely apologize to you. At the same time, we would like you to be a bit more open to human fetishes that don't harm anyone, even though they may seem disgusting to you. This is just a game, and although many people are trying to make it into something more, it remains and continues to be a game. We've made the decision to withdraw those mercies from Steam, Xerac Games. Oh, so it's from Xerac Games. P.S. If you purchase the game, you will not lose access to it. So there you go. Not only are they trying to be respectful here to Steam, but they also said to their customers, you will not lose access. So they will make sure you have access to the game. But here's the thing I want to point out here in this last part. Where's that here? This last paragraph here, where he talks about, human fetishes and stuff that don't harm anyone. Here, that might be disgusting. Here's the thing. I have a friend who pops on my channel every now and then, and he likes futas. He jokes around and says, it's futa time. Knowing full well, I find it disgusting. I find hermaphrodites disgusting. I find all that shit disgusting. Futas. All that shit. I hate it. I actually exploded when I saw it, and I said, "It's like, please don't bring it onto my into my Discord. Please don't." I'm a Christian. I don't look at porn and jack off to it. It does nothing for me. I can watch a porn. I can watch, what was that one? I watched Caligula. Didn't do nothing for me. I watched it to see a story. Did nothing for me. Game of Thrones has, porn in it. Porn scenes in it. Didn't do nothing for me. I need the real thing for me to be attracted. That's just how my brain works. It really is. But, some people, they like porn. You know what? Okay, fine. I respect your decisions. Their life choices. Move on. My friend is a great guy. You might know who he is if you frequent my chats. Because he makes me say it every time I say, and we're live. That's how about as open as I am. I don't like it. I don't want to know more about it. I don't want to see it. So I ask him, don't bring it around me. I have a friend who's gay. I make gay jokes with him all the time. But I don't want to hear him talking about his sex exploits every time he gets. Well, Lavistro, you said you had no life. Yeah, I still communicate with my buddies. I have Discord. I have emails. I have phones. Doesn't mean I don't answer my phone. I respect their views. They have that right. And if you look past those things at the person, you'll find that there's a lot of people that like this crap that are actually very good people. Normal people. Every last one of you that are in my community, I hope, are normal people. What do I mean by I hope? Well, I'm going to find out today. You'll probably get a lot of dislikes. I might get some unsubs. I don't care. I'm still going to say this. Because no one else wants. They're afraid they're going to lose subs. I don't know. I don't know. But me, I'm going to say this. Because it needs to be spoken. I'm not comfortable talking about this stuff. I'm really not. But I'm so mad right now about people doing this. And my oath says that I'm going to swear to defend the Constitution. Under the Constitution, this stuff is legal. As long as it's not oppressing anyone. It's not forced or coerced. It's just pretend. What about Hills Have Eyes? That literally has aggressive, loving, the R word, and breeding in that game, in that movie. Should that be banned? What about the R word of Europa? One of the classic depictions of Renaissance art. It's literally about a scene of Europa getting aggressively loved. Yeah, they don't show it, but she's naked, if I remember correctly. What about that? That's from way back, hundreds upon hundreds of years. What about the Sistine Chapel with all those dicks on it? Statue of David. The Statue of David was in a town square of Venice or Florence. I can't remember which one. It was one of those cities where David is the patron saint of. 300 years did not have a fig leaf on them. And they added that fig leaf because Queen Victoria was coming and they didn't want to offend her. So they made a plaster mold. The Statue of David literally stood outdoors in the town square for everyone to see. And it was supposed to be put up on top of a nearby church that had commissioned it. But the people thought it was so wonderful and so beautiful. I mean, this is not a fairy tale. This is actually the story behind the Statue of David. They actually asked the church to donate it to the city. And the church did. And the city funded the statue to replace the Statue of David they were supposed to get. Just pointing that out there. All right. I'm not mad that people get offended by No Mercy. If you don't like it, don't play it. I don't even know if I actually heard of this game until today. I thought No Mercy meant something else. I thought they were saying No Mercy to Steam. Then I read it and I realized, oh wow. They're gonna call it a win. Well, it's not really a win. Because they threw all your sins at your feet. But I want to go over something I found online from a thing called Added Distance. I've never heard of it before. People might hear about them. I don't know. But they uncovered some things about Japan or Japan, Visa over the years. They're talking about it. And I want to cover that. However, we need to take a short break because I am out of water. And I need some water because I'm ranting and raving. So, we'll go AFK for a second and we'll be back shortly. And we're back. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. And Real Wade Nation Gaming. Hello. Hello. How are you today? So, yes. So, at a distance, I believe the guy's a blogger because he writes from his perspective. He mentions he's talked about things and covered things. So, when I say I'm actually talking about the blogger. I'm reading the article. But I read this earlier. I was going to make this a video, but it got too big. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to cover the news on this one. So, yes, I already read this. But if you saw the thumbnail, one of the logos you saw was the UN. Yes. But he literally talks about Visa. He doesn't talk about Collective Shout. He talks about Visa. And if you remember, Collective Shout said when Steam wasn't doing what they wanted them to do, they went to the payment processors like Visa and PayPal. And you're going to find out that they're all connected to Visa. And they are basically violating certain laws. Okay? So that being said, we're going to go over it. And then I have some notes separately that I'm going to talk about so I could focus. Just give me a moment to pull those notes up. There we go. I had them there for later. All right, so at a distance, can Japan stop the Visa squeeze? Who knows about the Visa squeeze? Who knows what he's talking about here? Here he shows some screenshots. But he starts, it's been a long time coming, but Visa Japan has finally come under scrutiny from the Japan Fair Trade Commission for breaking Japan's Anti-Monopoly Act, telling Visa to reform their business practices in the country. The final straw, it seems, was Visa Japan's recent selective blocking of online sales of anime and manga content to protect our brand. He has in quotation marks here. So it's a quote. People don't want credit card companies telling them how to spend their own money. And as I've stated, both on the last Dragon Cast episode with Friendly's a Filipino Nerd and today, earlier, you have the right to the fruits of your labor. The money you spend on your credit cards is the fruits of your labor. It was given to you in the trust that you'll pay it back. You have the right to spend them how you see fit as long as it's not illegal, against the law. So continue on, but there's more to the story. How bad was it? A Reddit post has interesting list of Visa's purportedly bad behavior, and like all things Reddit, be careful. Here's the quote from Reddit. Oldish news, but happily is finally seeing the light of day. American payment processors have essentially had Japan under soft economic embargo since 2018. They physically send agents into stores to make sure things aren't being sold for cash. They blacklist political parties. They pull plugs on anime productions. They issue performance scores onto politicians. They cut fare processing for subway systems that they say run too many trains. They block transactions from convenience stores that stock corn or accept Chinese credit cards. They forcibly got the government to upgrade payment processor standards to cripple JCB with costs. That's the Japanese Credit Bank or Bureau. That's their credit card. They've mandated countless points of sales, Suisha Act, integrate invasive user tracking. They've killed the accounts of people buying crypto. They've illegally issued free credit to LGBT events. They enforce ESG scores. They sabotage pro-Palestine protests. They give $5 figure amount gifts to foreigners and criminals, etc., etc. The son of a Visa executive actually moonlights as the head of Osaka Antifa, so I guess whatever his daddy can't defund, he tries to punch in the face. So there's a list of accusations right there that we could all go look up of what Visa does in Japan. And if you think it can't happen here, it can. Because we have a very similar anti-monopoly act here in America. This shows you how much power Visa has on things, or has had for the past almost 10 years in Japan. This is why Collective Shout went to payment processors. Because they've had success in dictating what you can and cannot buy. Here's a fun fact. When I collect my super chats, right, and my Rumble rants, or just Rumble rants that I'm not monetized yet on YouTube, it goes through my PayPal account. And my PayPal account also uses, well, drumroll please. I don't have a sound for that, so oh well, you just use your imagination. Visa MasterCard. We literally use that stuff. Their credit card, however, is with Citibank. Which also, as we're going to find out, leases or licenses Visa MasterCard and other things. There have been attempts to legally rein them in, but they were mostly blocked by both the UN. Here it is. When they tried to rein in these payment processors, they were mostly blocked by the United Nations and then Ambassador Rahm Emanuel. Many people have moved to JCB, which is trying to fight back as best they can, but it's still very much an active issue. If you want to support Japanese companies, please make sure you're using JCB or directly transferring money to the company's listed bank account. Hopefully this Steam thing will invite real actual interactual action. Japan's sort of screaming into the void about this, it feels like. Continuing on with the blogger, he says, it's a long, complex story spinning fast. It's far beyond my ability to report it. On the Apple Pay Japan side, there has been a lot of funny business that I have covered over the years. One of the reasons why I don't have Apple. I don't have an iPhone. I don't use Apple. Apple's shit. Here's a few important points as I see them. Killing off Felicia payment networks in favor of EMV. People are discussing payments as if EMV is a global standard that has been around forever. It's important to know the mobile Felicia background. Visa Japan's biggest and most important banking partner is SMBC. They issued most of the Visa and MasterCard in Japan. The mobile Felicia Osaifu Kita platform came together before the EMV contactless spec did. Visa, MasterCard, SMC, JCB cooperated with Docomo to develop the Felicia QuickPay operated by JCB in 2004, but Docomo quit suddenly to develop the ID payment network that launched in 2005. Visa shut off Apple Pay in Japan. Flash forward to a decade to October 2016, the Apple Pay launched in Japan. By this point, there was considerable friction between Docomo and SMBC that soon became a behind-the-scenes feud. First of all, Visa Japan never wanted to support Apple Pay because it supported the Felicia payment networks in Japan, and they wanted to kill those in Minecraft in favor of EMV NFC. Visa refused to sign with Apple Pay for Japan, thus limiting local issue Apple Pay Visa cards to the point of the sale ID in QuickPay networks. No online or in-app Apple Pay for Japan issued Visa cards. This situation went on until May 2021, when Visa finally signed on for Apple Pay Japan, just in time for the Tokyo Olympics and the EMV open loop test rollouts on private rail. So they only did that because of the Olympics. Because, you know, it profits and benefits them. That's the only reason why they did that. Give me a second here. All right, that's my neighbor. My own take is these Visa maneuvers have to... Oh, no, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Shut off inbound Visa used for Apple Pay, Pasmo to promote EMV open loop statements. On August 5th, 2022, the Visa Japan Payment Network, market acquired, suddenly started blocking non-Japanese issue Visa card used for wallet in-app use with Sushia, Pasmo, and ICOCA, along with some online merchants. Look at that. along with some online merchants. Users can no longer add money to those cards. The issue dragged on until iOS 17.2 update lifted the block for Apple Pay Susha, but not for Pasmo or RCA. If you remember correctly, Apple, and I covered this a while back, Apple and Epic Games was having a feud. And while I have the Epic Games as shit, I prefer Steam, right? The Fortnite couldn't be played on Apple. And they had a lawsuit over it, and they found that Apple broke the law. As of 2025-7/23, Pasmo is still non-JP Visa blocked. The reasons for the block was never explained or even acknowledged, but Junya Suzuki reported his sources said undefined security, which could be anything. It's like having an anonymous source. My own take being the blogger, is these Visa maneuvers had two goals. One, promote EMV open loop systems at the expense of mobile transit card use, and two, get more iPhone Apple Pay user data with enhanced fraud prevention. Even Japanese issued card users started complaining of the sudden daily mobile Sushiya recharge limits of 2,000 to 3,000 yen. The simple gist of it all is that Visa, EMV Payment Network, and SMB, Stera Payment Platform Provider, have worked to reduce NFC, not NFT, NFC payment competition. An example, Unalive and Minecraft, Felicia-based payment networks in favor of EMV. A lot of people in Japanese IT media argue this is as a good thing. I do not. To me, strong competition is a healthier market. And yes, competition drives business. I'm not going to go into a lecture of free markets. I'm not. But I'm going to say, if you ever noticed, you're driving down the road, right, and you need to get gas, and you see, let's just say you see Quickie Mart. We'll say Quickie Mart, right? You see a Quickie Mart and it says gas $10 a gallon. But you decide, you know what? I don't want to pay that much. I'm going to drive down the road. And you go down the road and you see an Exxon and it says gas $9.99. Okay, maybe we'll go further down the road. And eventually you see another gas station. Trying to think of one. The 70s, I think it's 76. I think it was the gas station I saw once in my road trips. We'll use that one. You go to that one and it says gas $5. Like, now we're cooking with gas, right? So you pull over there, but you check your phone, right, before you get the gas to see if there's another gas station down the road. And you find out that there's another one and it says $3 a gallon. And you can make it. So you go to that one. That $3 a gallon is getting more customers. In fact, there's a Q Mart near my area where it's almost always busy round the clock 24 hours. Because while most people charge, let's say, $5 a gallon, they're charging like $2 a gallon. And whenever people can't get to that one because they're out of gas or whatever, they'll go to Exxon and all these other gas stations around here. Well, let's just say those gas stations exist and it was all, let's say, Exxon, right? Let's say it was all Exxon or Quickie Mart. Let's say it's all Quickie Mart. The Quickie Mart gas stations. That means they can charge whatever they want. Because either way you shake it, you're going to their gas station, you're using their pumps, getting their fuel, so they can charge you $15 a gallon. And they can use that as an excuse and say, you know what, oil's expensive, we have to get it overseas, blah, blah, blah. That's why it is this way. And they've tried that before. You know, many of these oil companies have tried that before. Don't think that I'm pro oil or anything like that. I'm not. I'm also not pro electric car. Corporals are going to corpo. But that's how free market works, is the spirit of competition. When you take that competition away, you can charge whatever you want. You can say things like, only cars that are made by Chevy, go with that. Chevrolet cars can get gas. You can't get gas if you have a Ford car. Well, That's going to force you to get a Ford card. Then you're going to find out they might actually have some hold or shareholder power or something with Chevy that they don't have with Ford. So it benefits them. Maybe they have a deal where Chevy actually has to get their gas as well when they fill up the car before you drive it off the lot, when they get cars out on the road. You know, stuff like that. It's an unfair advantage. So these laws are there to make it fair for everyone. It is not to restrict your rights, but it's to limit you from being a monopoly on things. But here, Visa is becoming a monopoly in Japan, and finally people are starting to do about it. Continuing on. In addition to the EMV payment pipeline, Japan should keep the Felicia payment pipeline, because getting rid of it means there's no alternative to EMV Co., which encompasses an ecosystem of everything from smartphone and reader and NFC chips to software to device certification to payment transaction pipelines and backbones, CAFIS, etc. The end result of Visa and SMBC maneuvers have been the Japanese mobile carriers, Rakuten, SoftBank, Docomo, KDDI, AU pushing back with QR code payment services like D-Barai, PayPay, AU Pay, Rakuten Pay, and so on, locking in their own cards from recharge back in to reduce EMV and middleman bank hanky-panky as much as possible. So they're trying to make sure that you don't have to pay all those fees. You don't have to pay, and they don't have to pay those fees. So if they don't have to pay those fees, you don't have to pay those fees. You just do business directly with them. That's what the rivals of Visa are trying to do. And recruit some transaction fees too. Anyone who can do so has their XX Pay and reward point scheme by now. Meanwhile, online merchants who don't have means are at the mercy of Visa shutting them out if they don't like the content. Notice this one here. Online merchants who don't have the means are at the mercy of Visa shutting them out if they don't like the content. That goes back to the Steam rule, right? That your games, your content, right? If you're a game developer, it has to be approved with their payment processors. PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, all of them, right? If your content is not to their liking, then Steam and Itch.io can't use it. They can't do anything because they have to use that system because there's no other system out there because it's shut out. They can't have that system, another one. And you know how dangerous that is? Let's say you're watching my show and you're not a gamer. You're like, well, I don't fucking care about games. I don't care about these porn games. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Let's say you're a partisan person. You're very political, right? Let's just say you subscribe to a party, be it Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever the case may be, and you want to donate to that campaign to help your guy win the election. You want to donate to his war treasure or whatever, right? Well, I don't really do much on politics. Let's just say you do. You want to use your debit card, which is a Visa MasterCard. Generally, all debit cards tend to have the Visa MasterCard, or they might have the American Express or some other thing. Most cards are Visa MasterCard. And Visa doesn't like that party. And so they say, you can use your money to donate to political firms, but it can't donate to that one in particular. We don't endorse him. We gave him a bad rating, and we think he's a bad politician because he doesn't agree with our views, and he or she won't push our agendas through. Remember, I talked about that earlier, right? All the way up here. They issue performance scores to politicians. So now, you can't do that. You can no longer donate to your favorite politician. And then you find out you didn't vote for the right guy. So they cancel your credit card. We joke about ESG scores all the time. But they're not doing this because they believe in this or that. They're doing this stuff because they want to be a monopoly and control things. And activists use that control for everything else. This is why no one should have a monopoly on anything. Everyone should have a right to competition. You have a right to the fruits of your labor, sure. You have a right to the creative licensing of your content, sure. You do not have a right to restrict people from making their own things or doing what they want with things they bought. You have no right to dictate their private property. You don't. Even if you don't approve of what they do, just because my neighbor might vote for the opposite guy does not mean I had the right to restrict his rights to vote the way he wants, or fund who he or she wants. That's their right. Everyone has equal rights. This is an equal rights violation. It's a private property violation. It's a consumer rights violation. It's a business violation. It's an anti-monopoly violation. Moving on. It will take some time to see what Japan Fair Trade Commission's action and Visa's Japan's compliance. The best Japanese IT reporter covering it is Junya Suzuki. I hope I said that name right. He had this to say today. I checked with the Fair Trade Commission regarding this matter. Currently, Visa basically requires authorization for all transactions processed through its brand network, VisaNet, but the condition for obtaining a preferential fee rate is that the transaction must go through the VisaNet, which is the issue. For now, the two key points are Visa is a non-violation of antitrust laws in this case, and when the Fair Trade Commission begins its investigation, Visa proactively submitted an approved proposal commitment plan. This suggests that Visa was aware of a high likelihood of being found in violation. Yes, it's safe to assume, and while we normally shouldn't assume, it's safe to assume Visa was in violation of the law. Because that's how corporals work. When they realize they're not going to win the case, when they're going to get caught, they settle out of court in lawsuits, or they try and do something to appease the authorities, the proper authorities, the elected authorities, so they don't have to pay enormous fees. Continuing on to blogger rights, I don't think Visa's improvement proposal will be amounts to much, but any attempt to bring Visa market abuses to light and address it is a welcome step. Also sees Zuka and Action's piece, Visa locked in to be corrected the exclusionary obligatory fair trade sanctions, Japanese and paywalled. So I actually can't use that. The NTT Visa feud continues. So it's a feud between two different banking firms in Japan, right? So here's the screenshots. Visa told by Japanese antitrust watchdogs to inform the credit info system. Right. But yeah, that's literally what's going on. You have blacklisting political parties, pulling plugs on anime productions, which is a huge market in Japan, issuing performance scores to politicians, cut fare processing for subway systems, which is another thing that's crucial to Japanese transportation, because they run too many trains. Think of the environmental system bullshit. They block transactions from convenience stores that, or accept rival cards. They forcefully got the government to upgrade payment processor standards to cripple JCB with costs. And they mandated contactless points of sale. And then it just keeps going there. They keep having more and more and more sins being brought to light. This is in Japan. While this is not necessarily gaming per se, as we have said, it's related. And you're probably asking me, how does this relate to games? Well, according to my notes here, I got my notes here. All right. It doesn't mention too much restricting what country can and cannot sell. it does talk about the whole concept is antitrust laws. All right. It pretty much details to summarize everything. The Japanese Fair Trading Commission is taking action against Visa for suspected violations of the country's anti-monopoly law, which prohibits unfair trade practices such as trading on restricted terms, quote unquote. The FTC alleges that the Visa pressured credit card companies to switch to its credit authorization system by tying eligibility for commission discounts on payments of certain industries to use that system. This is seen as restricting free transaction amongst credit card companies and excluding rival system providers from that market, thereby harming competition. Basically, Visa and MasterCard no longer make their own cards. They lease it out. So when you get your bank, you go to your bank, you say, I want to make a bank account, and you get your bank card, your debit card, right? You'll see on it Visa MasterCard. It's the bank's card, but they're leasing it through Visa MasterCard. That means that when you pay for something and you have to pay for credit, right? Because they don't have a debit system set up, whatever. You're swiping that card and it's going through the Visa's payment processors. They process the payment. Visa and MasterCard process the payment. You use, let's say you get a card from Wells Fargo. It's a credit card, right? Well, not saying Wells Fargo does this. I'm just saying, I'm just using a bank off the top of my head here for an example. You go to our bank, Wells Fargo, and you get a credit card from them, right? You don't have a bank account, so you just get a credit card that's run through Wells Fargo. And when you get it, it says Visa MasterCard. You have a separate line of credit that still gets payment processing through Visa MasterCard. You get approved for their credit ratings, how they rate credit systems and everything else. So if they want to use the ESG scores, for example, and not your 700, 800 credit score that's usually and traditionally used, right? You might get declined. You might not meet the requirements because you don't have the right skin color. You don't have the right gender. They're going to discriminate you based on that and your ESG score. That's why we make those jokes. Because it's stupid. It's unfair. And because of that, a lot of people, there used to be a time when I was little, I remember saying, yes, we accept these credit cards. It was like Visa and MasterCard, not Visa MasterCard, just Visa and MasterCard, American Express, JCB, all these other different payments. And now, a lot of them saying Visa are, well, they might have them, a lot of them are under Visa MasterCard. Strictly Visa MasterCard. It's the most common one used. All right. That's why. It restricts the rival systems from competing with Visa MasterCard because now they have to use their payment processors, their credit ratings, all that stuff. And because of it, they can say, okay, you can't sell this product. And they'll double check to make sure you're not selling those products. That's why Steam has written that thing. I'm not defending Steam here by any shape, means, or anything. Right? I'm not defending Steam. But I understand. It's a business. When your money is threatened, when your income is threatened, and you can't pay your employees, you can't pay the people that are selling games on your platform, and you can't get refund your customers, right? You're going to panic. Because now you have no capital. And your business runs on capital. That's how businesses work. And these Karens that Collective Shout and these suits, these corporals, fucked with their money. But they have nowhere to turn. They're trapped. They don't have another way. They don't. A lot of people use PayPal. A lot of people use all these other payment processors that still use Visa MasterCard. It's kind of a checkmate. So yeah, they caved and bent the knee. I wish they would have fought. I wish they would have threw these people under the bus. Right? all that stuff. Same with Itch.io. Yes, Itch.io did remove all NSFWs, but in their defense, when you go look at Collective Shout and you go look at Visa MasterCard, they're going to keep demanding and demanding and demanding until all NSFW, all things Karens don't like, including what one game journalist called Stellar Blade, women of a bygone era, because they don't exist, even though those women have been proven to exist and were the models for Eve in other characters, right? They don't like them. They don't like mothers. They don't like children. They don't like parents, fathers, anybody. They don't even like you. They accuse you of calling them things that they have no proof of. They have screenshots that could be easily faked, doctored. Very easily. But there's no link to it. If we go to the article here, when he makes his claims, right? He has a link to his source. We click on that. It's another one that he wrote. Click on another one. The website source. I can't read Japanese. I'm not going to spend the time to translate it. Right? Here. Quick Pay. Jalpay. Right? Let's see if I can translate. Let's see if we can translate it. English. Wait a little bit. All right. Source where QuickPay can be used. You can use it with this source with this mark. The number of stores where you can use it is gradually expanding, and there are regular stores expanded with QuickPay. All right. So this is just QuickPay stores. Apple, you can get an Apple Watch and QuickPay and Apple Pay. See, two different things. So they're having a feud, a corporate feud, and we're all paying for it. And they're using that feud, right? These characters are using that feud to get their agendas. But, you know, I'm trailing off a little bit. But anyways, they have sources. When we were covering Collective Shout, right? User has been banned for naughty words. Hello. Gamers are the most oppressed minority. Yes, you know who's even more oppressed? Fun fact, off topic, but you know who's more oppressed? Left-handed gamers. But do we bitch about it? No. Because mama didn't raise no bitch. We don't bitch about the fact there's no left-handed controllers or left-handed control schemes for us. If there's key bindings, we use it. And if there's no key bindings, we just make the best we can. But yes, we've always been like nerds have always been the outcasts. Nerds, gamers, geeks. We've always been the outcasts of society. And all we wanted was to share our passions with everybody. That's all we want to fucking do. If you don't want to share the passion with us, we're like, okay, we just play our own games. Let's put it this way. Let's say you're a sports jock, a sports nut, and you like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't watch sports at all. At all. I don't see the sense in watching a TV screen where two people throw a ball when I could watch a compelling story. Or go outside and fucking play ball. Actually, I can't because, well, I'm a dragon. I'll shred the ball. But also, I could end up injuring myself because I'm a disabled vet. But it's literally the same thing. It's your pastime. It's your hobby. And you want to share that with people because you have a passion for it. In this case, people use the age-old thing from the Prohibition era. Games are a time waster, a money waster. People forget that in the 1920s, alcohol wasn't the only thing banned. It was games. It was arcades. And guess what happened? Those popular mafia movies and mobster movies about illegal gambling and profiteering rackets. Yeah. They took those games from arcades and used them for gambling. Slots, you know why slots? I said this in Dragon Cast on Saturday for those who don't know. But you know why these slots have fruits on them? During the day, the stores that were under mafia protection, right? kids could put a coin in there and pull the lever, and they would get candy. This is during the Prohibition, by the way, when gambling and arcade games and alcohol was illegal. Kids would get the candy, right? It was that flavor. Whatever flavor the machine said. It could be chocolate, that's the bar. Or it could be, a lemon-flavored lollipop or strawberry lollipop, whatever the case may be, right? You got those candies. And then, when the store was closed and everyone went to bed and the lights were up, they turned those stores into casinos. And used those same machines with the candy and stuff or the slots to gamble. Which has become modern-day gambling now. Did that stop the prohibition of time wasters and money wasters? No. In fact, not only did it not stop it, it created an illegal profiteering racket and a corrupt police state. No, I'm not a libertarian. I'm literally telling you history here. But it also taught kids how to gamble. We're having that now with monetization. Right? So, going back here, right? There's that Karen that keeps saying that is ancient and old and expired milk, and since she's never had kids of her own, allegedly, she's going stir crazy, and she wants to dictate how you spend your money, like if you're her child. But this is that thing I was telling you about earlier, everybody, about yes, gotcha games. That's another one. I hate those type of games. There's something different from buying skins, like in First Descendant, or buying extra packs. They might help enhance the game, but you're not paying to win, right? You're paying them for, if you want to have them. It's like another option, like a DLC. Those are different. But, so Collective Shout makes these claims that people are calling them being names and threatening, man babies, all this other stuff, right? We've talked about it before. And they show this, right? Right, and it's a guy, and we actually said at Dragon Cast, if the guy is actually doing this, it's wrong. But notice how they're not showing context, right? He could be sarcastic. He could be talking to someone else. They screenshot it. It could be a fake. It could be a fake screenshot. It could be photoshopped. It could be anything. There's no link. You click on the image. There's no link. If there's a link, so I could see it, I'll sit down and agree with you. Yeah, that person, it should be, banned from the platform of X because it's actually against terms of service. You can get banned for that. It's another one. They said this one. How do we know they didn't write that themselves? Another one. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. Anonymous. Interesting. Anonymous. How do we know they didn't write it themselves? Show me proof. Show me proof of these things existing. And I'll say, yeah, I will condemn them for saying that. I'll even report them. I will report them to X. If these are real posts, since you don't want to fucking do it, I will report them to X. That they're violating X's own terms of service. Provided the context says that's what they were doing. Provided the context says you're right. That's what they're doing. A lot of these, how do we know that's not alternate accounts that they made themselves? Because pity works. Tugging the heartstrings. Oh, you know what? There's a lot of people out there that are attacking me because I have great ideas. There's a lot of people out there that don't like what I have to say because I say things people don't say. So they're coming after my channel. They're coming after my platform. They're coming after my fundraiser. Please like, share, and subscribe. We know exactly who those people are that say that. And some of them might be telling the truth. And some might be saying that for clout. As the old proverb says, actions speak louder than words. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying, user. Is that there are people out there that make shit up. And there are people out there that are actually doing these things. And if the people are actually doing these things, I condemn. And besides, I don't know how to say this without being. Well, my point is there's no source, but I don't know how to say this very well. So I'm going to use this term loosely, okay? But this is really telling, all right? If you look at their team, right? 40-year-old women, ugly, bitchy, narcissistic complex, superior mindset women. Not one of them is attractive enough for me to even want to date, much less breed with. I'm just saying that. So it's almost like they had their own fantasy of being forcibly loved because no one will love them consensually. And I'm saying that loosely. I don't know, but it's just so telling. These people aren't really attractive for anyone to just say. And I'm not saying that like your appeal should be an issue here. I'm saying people are saying they want to R them, but when you look at them, they're not attractive at all. They have no links to this. I want proof. Yes, call me a doubting Thomas. Call me a doubting Thomas for all you want to say. Call me a denier. Yeah, they've done that. Didn't that Anita Sarkeesian or the other chick do that and get caught? Yes, they did. I think you're talking about what was her name? I know you're talking about. She's a green-haired chick. She actually got caught having a fundraiser for one of her games, and she used all the money that was people donated for her game, and bought herself a motorcycle instead. She defrauded her own supporters. Not Anita, but the other Chloe something. It's been so long ago. As George Carlson said, it's always the ones no one wants. Yes, and the thing is like. They're always saying like these people want to R us. I was like, first off, maybe it's just me. Like I said, I'm not that attracted to these things, right? And I would never force myself on anyone. But I wouldn't even bother using that word. I would just say, shut the fuck up. Why would I say that? Here's a story about Lavistro. Back in the day, when Lavistro's dad took us to church as a little Lavistro Dragonling, I played Mortal Kombat 1. The very first Mortal Kombat game in the 90s. And the pastor's wife was like Reverend Roadjoy's life in The Simpsons. And she convinced the pastor to tell the congregation they should all buy as many copies as the Mortal Kombat that they could afford so they can have a bonfire and burn the game. Now, granted, I'm going to tell you, not every church was like this. I found this out later on in life. Okay, a lot of churches told the churches that I went to shut the fuck up, but they didn't have a platform like we do nowadays. Okay, so yet still the church is given the blame, the satanic panic, when in reality it was. There is some truth to the whole government psyop thing, but it's still conspiracy theory. But there was a lot of televangelists that were trying to get clout and scare you, so you watched their TV shows. And so they went with this. And politicians used this to get more clout to stay in office, right? So there is a lot of nuance to all that. However, my dad came with me. He saw me playing the game. He talked to me. He asked me, he's like, do you feel like do you want to go sever this person's your bully's spine? I was like, no, Dad, I can't do that. He's like, okay, why not? Because he's a person. He's real. You said I'm not allowed to do that. And you said God said thou shalt not kill. Now, granted, during my childhood and my teen years, I was an atheist. In fact, I was an atheist up until I hit 30. I did not a non-believer. I wanted nothing to do with God because of these stuck-up pricks. But My dad took me to the bonfire with him. I thought he was going to throw my game out into the bonfire. He goes over there and he tells everybody what they just did was they told the game developers and the stores there's a huge demand in this area for that game. Just like we covered in the Steam No Mercy thing, right? Where they also said, where's that? The result of all this, so they're talking about the clicks and clouts and all this stuff, right? That it went from 1,000 visits to 100 times more in those days. Meaning, when you talked about it, when you gave attention to it, and all this stuff, people went to see if it was true. They went to see for themselves, which gave attention to this game that they would probably never get. This is from the game developer who said it, right? So my dad was also making that point in the 90s. If you didn't buy this game, now we're gonna have more of these games coming out. It's gonna in this area alone, the small area that we lived in. He told the lady, the pastor's wife told him that he needs to shut his mouth, judge not the anointed, and confess his sins because he's defending the devil. My dad told her, shut the fuck up. And then he went off on her and laid all the sins in front of her, in front of the congregation at my pastor's farm at that time period. Including the fact that she was cheating on him with another person in the congregation, in front of the congregation. My dad was a deacon. Not anymore at that church. In fact, that church actually shut down later on. But the point is like, they had the most to hide of their own sins. And he gave me that game. He says, go play it, but don't play it too much. You need to go to your church, you need this, you need that, and all these other things. And my dad literally defended my right to play games. And he thought games were a time waster, money waster. But he respected, even though he found it nonsensical that I would not like golf and all these other things he liked, he respected that. Then I found in the Bible, there's actual Bible verses that talks about this stuff. For example, you preach the word of God. If someone rejects it, shake the dust off your sandals, go in peace. If a sinner invites you to eat amongst them, right? Eat everything that's presented in front of you. Holding no conscience for conscience sake. Basically, don't preach to them about the fact that eating an animal is wrong and you're a fucking vegan. Don't do that. It also says, don't sin against God, right? If it's going to be a sin, don't shame them in public. Just say, hey, do you have something, like, for example, let's just say you're Jewish, right? Or you follow the Jewish laws with your Christian beliefs, right? And you say, hey, do you have hummus? I can't eat pork. Do you have anything other than pork? And you say that privately and respectfully offline, out of the way, right? There are ways you're respecting them, and because you're respecting them and you're not, and their views and their stuff, you're honoring God, you're honoring the faith, and you're honoring your fellow Christians and them. There are certain rules to use. The Bible also says, in two places in the Bible, it says, test all things and hold what is true. Okay? It also says, you have the right to do anything, but not everything is beneficial. And we've also discussed that you have the right to do anything as long as it's not forced or coerced. You can't coerce people to believe as you believe. You can't. That includes if you're straight or gay. You can't force people into that. They have to make that decision themselves, right? These are all rights that we have. These Karens, however, don't like what you play, regardless if it's horn games or Stellar Blade or the First Descendant or Doom. What's the next thing? What's the next thing Steam and Collective Shout's going to ask? Oh, we don't like jiggle physics, so you can't be having those in your games. I like Conan Exiles. You know what's in Conan Exiles? Aggressively making friends. You start by taking them clubbing at level 10, I believe. Grab a club, bonk them on the head, send them to horny jail. They run around in circles for a little bit, and they're your friend. but that's part of the Conan universe. That's part of the lore and the story. In fact, it was before the times of Atlantis, before the oceans drank Atlantis. So that means it was in the ancient times. In the ancient times, every civilization ever had aggressive recruiting. Let's just put it that way. What did they find that offensive? You want to know another thing? I used to not tolerate gays and homosexuals when I was in my teens. No, it wasn't from my dad. I just thought it was unnatural. It was a violation of science. I don't understand why people would do that. I found it repulsive and disgusting. And I played Dragon Age. And in Dragon Age, they had a character, Tevinter, right? And he goes and talk, like, he doesn't, it's not forced on you. You can talk to him. I never pursued a gay romance, but I talked to him. And he talks about why he's gay and his thing here and there and stuff. And it gave me a different, that game and talking to that character gave me a different perspective of the homosexual community. To where I respect and tolerate and acknowledge their right to their freedom of expression. I may not approve of it. I may still have my views, right? But it doesn't mean I can't be friends with someone who disagrees with me. What if we weren't allowed to talk about that? What if games were not allowed to talk about? What if Visa all of a sudden decides you can't have games with homosexual characters? What if they say you can't have games that aren't pro-Christian? What if someone decides to use all those policies and is a Christian? He works his way up into the ladder, makes the corporation think that he's one of them, he's on their team, and as soon as he's in charge and has all the power, you know, let's just say, you can say, oh, that's not going to happen. Well, let's just say, people didn't think what Visa's doing could happen, and it happened. A lot of things happened in America that people didn't believe could happen. And I'm not trying to talk politics here. I'm keeping it within the games. It doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left. This is something that is a huge human rights violation. And Collective Shout aren't even Americans. So what's a bunch of Karens in Australia telling me, an American, what to fucking do with my rights? I respect in their country, they may have different rights. Okay. Keep it in your country then. Steam already removed certain games from the platform for Australia already. But who are you to dictate what I can do or what every other country can do because you don't like it? No, I'm not a good man. I'm a very, 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 very horrible person. I'm a sexist, misogynistic dragon. And it's according to them, probably, I'm probably one of these people that they're going to accuse me of all this. But let's just say let's just say they do that. Let's just say they make another article, right? And they put my name on there, my face on there, and say I say these things. I'm going to find a way to sue them all the way in Australia because what he did is against the free speech, slander and libel. I will sue them for slander. I will serve them papers. I will make it my life's work that Collective Shout, if they slander me like that, is nothing but a liar and a thief and a bully. Oh wait, I'm already doing that. But anyways, right, so where were we at here? Because I went off topic. Let's just go ahead and cover the SI Shimbun, right? Because so we talked about Visa being investigated by Japan's Federal Trade Commission, and we also found out from another article. Well, here it is. Right, that Visa and the UN work hand in hand. Where's that? I'll show you. For those who are just coming in, right? Here we go. There have been attempts to legally rein them in, but they were mostly blocked by both the UN and the ambassador Rahm Emanuel. So they tried to rein in Visa, but UN blocked them. So UN is working with Visa. Apparently, allegedly, right? That's what they're saying. There's a connection there, right? Well, we got more on the story. So, FTC acts on Visa over suspecting fee abuse this way to credit card firms. Oh, I forgot. We were covering the notes of these articles. But anyways, King of the Monsters, hello. For $1, he sends me meat, a pie, or I think it's a cake, and America. And meat cakes. I need to figure out how to enhance it. But yes, if you're watching on the YouTubes, you should consider my Rumble. All right, I'm not part of the whole Rumble revolution, but I do need my 200 watch hours. So thanks to everyone that's watching on Rumble. Y'all are awesome. But continuing on, the Japanese Fair Commission International Award has issued its first administrative action involving credit card industry following a probe of Visa Worldwide, PTE, LD's Japanese subsidiary in July of 2024. The Fair Trade Commission has obliged the Visa Group company to adhere to its corrective action plan over suspicions that it had effectively forced credit card companies to use the group's credit authorization system. This is what I was talking about before. Not this article, but I was talking about before about Visa doesn't own its own credit cards. They lease the credit cards out and force people to use their credit system. Visa Worldwide, FG Singapore headquarters, submitted its voluntary plan following the FTC's investigation in accordance to the commitment procedure based on the anti-monopoly law commission officials announced on July 22nd. It was the FTC's first administrative action against the credit card industry. The commission approved the company's plan. Visa Worldwide will be required to report to the FTC on how the plan is implemented for 5 years. Visa is the largest international credit card network. Visa Worldwide, based in Singapore, operates the group's business in Asia, including Japan. Visa, which does not issue credit cards, as stated right here, it says right here, provides systems necessary for credit card transactions. It receives license fees from credit card companies that issue cards to consumers as well as those that process payments made to retailers. For example, Steam, restaurants, and other businesses. The FTC investigation focused on Visa's worldwide actions regarding the group's credit authorization system. When consumers pay with their credit card companies that manage affiliated outlets use the system for a fee to check the spending limit or possible fraudulent use with the cardholders' credit card companies. According to the FTC, when Visa Worldwide changed its terms in November 2021, it rendered credit card companies that manage affiliated outlets ineligible for a discount and a type of commission charged for payments in certain industries unless they use Visa's credit authorization system. So you can't use anything but Visa, like I said. You have to use their systems. After the company announced the change in February 2018, the FTC said that almost all credit card companies had used a rival credit card authorization system switched to Visa's system. So anyone that was using anything other than Visa now uses Visa. PayPal uses Visa. A common payment through Steam is Visa and PayPal because it's quick, easy, and efficient. When you want to play that game, you want to buy that game, you want to hurry up. You don't want to wait too long. But there's no they're not allowing any rivals to challenge them. If you use this other payment processor that doesn't use our system, you can't use ours to fund the purchase of a game. You cannot. We will not approve that credit card. Will not. So that's why they say we no longer accept. We don't accept Visa, MasterCard, or whatever. Right? That's usually why they say that. Because they use their processing payment system. So that yes, we can use your Visa card to fund your transactions because we have a license to use their payment system. The watchdog also shared that Visa received about 10 billion yen, at 68 million annually a year, in fees alone charged to these companies for using its credit authorization system. The FTC conducted an on-site investigation of Visa's Japanese subsidiary last July on the suspicion that the updated terms restricted free transactions of credit card companies and excluded companies that provided a rival credit authorization system. It concluded that Visa Worldwide's actions constituted a suspected violation of the anti-monopoly law that prohibits unfair trade practices such as trading on restrictive terms, which we were discussing. We will get back into that. According to the Japanese Consumer Credit Association, the country made about 116 trillion yen in payments via credit cards in 2024. So the country of Japan, everyone that has a card and Visa stuff, has made about 16 trillion yen in payments last year to Visa, the country. Owes that much debt. Not the government, the country, the citizens of Japan owe that much debt to Visa. Visa needs to go back to bean counting. A survey by the private research company Ipsos found that the Visa brand accounted for about 50% of that amount. I'm sorry. Okay, so the country, I'm written wrong. Let me correct myself. The country made about 16 trillion yen in payment via credit cards that year, and half of that was Visa. So yeah. Now, going back to where's that here? Trading on restrictive terms. All right, I want to cover that real quick. So, in context, I had to research this. I had to go find it and translate it, all that stuff, because I like to research things to understand what I'm talking about. And I'm nobody no means a lawyer. I'm just telling you what I read from the translations. I had to write this as notes, all right, because translations can be kind of wonky. So, in the context, basically, of Japan's Anti-Monopoly Act, also known as the Act on Prohibition of Private Monopolization and Maintenance of Fair Trade, trading on restrictive terms, in quotes, sometimes translated as dealing on restrictive terms, is classified as an unfair trade practice under Article 2, Paragraph 9, Item 4. It prohibits engaging in transactions with another party under condition that is unjustly restrict or constrain the business activities of that counterparty, so the rival company. This included imposing requirements that limit their ability to deal with competitors, set prices freely, choose suppliers or systems, or otherwise conduct business independently, therefore harming fair competition. For instance, this might involve tying benefits like discounts to exclusive use of a particular product or service, or forcing restrictive clauses in contracts that exclude rivals from the market. The Japan Fair Trade Commission enforces this to prevent dominant firms from abusing their position in vertical relationships. But you would probably ask, does this mean that it includes restricting what products can be sold? Like, for example, Steam selling a game on platform that has certain features that are not illegal in that country or area, but Visa demands it cannot be sold unless those features are removed. Right? You would be correct in that assumption. From what I understand, right? Not a lawyer or anything like that. I'm just going from what I've researched and read. Such a scenario could potentially fall under trading on restricted terms as an unfair trade practice under Japanese Anti-Monopoly Act. This category prohibits imposing transaction conditions that unjustly restrict or constrain a trading partner's business activities in a way that impedes fair competition, such as through foreclosing effects, excluding competitors, or price maintenance effects. While the guidelines do not simply cite examples of restricting product features or content, focus instead on areas like limited handling or of competing product sales territories or customer dealings. The broad definition encompasses vertical restraints for an influential enterprise like Visa conditions its services on merchants altering or removing legal but undesired product features. This could be viewed as unjustly limiting what merchants can sell, potentially harming competition among game developers or platforms if it lacks justifiable grounds. In practice, similar conduct has been arisen in Japan, where we've already talked about it. Or Visa's had admitted to pressuring retailers to censor or restrict sales of legal adult anime and manga content to quote unquote protect the brand. I believe this was, if I remember correctly, because I didn't write in the notes, but if I remember correctly, that's the Visa CEO in Japan. They wanted to protect the Visa brand, and they're claiming that if you buy porn and stuff, that damages their brand because people think that they approve it. Well, unfortunately, you're a monopoly. So yeah, if you're that's the curse of being a monopoly, is that if you're the only one that's accepting these payments, right, and no one else can do these other things, that means that yeah, only Visa and MasterCard lets you buy porn. You did that to yourself. Sorry, but you did. You can't restrict people because of that. That's on you. That's corporate greed right there. Corporals will corpo. When they gain a monopoly, I mean, look at YouTube. When YouTube gained a monopoly, right, and Patreon, right, they started arbitrarily doing things. They're still doing that, but not as bad as before, right? Because you got Rumble, you got Kick, you got BitChute, you got Odyssey, you got all these things. I don't even use them all. Right, you got Subscribestar. You got all these competitors popping up as an alternative to supply a demand. Visa is powerful enough to where they can squash that demand. And the government is powerful enough to tell Visa to back off. This is why I'm not libertarian. Because in a libertarian society, this will happen. Libertarianism is anarchy. It literally is anarchy. You don't own your product at all. That's literally the original ideology of libertarianism is you own what you wear or you own what you have until you stop using it. Then it's like if I leave this house tomorrow and go to work, grocery shopping, right? Let's just say that I no longer own this house in a libertarian ideology. Whoever a squatter comes into this house, they own it until they leave. That's squatters is literal definition of libertarianism. There's no true property right. Like the actual, like people are like, oh, that's what it is. The Libertarian Party thing is based on Ross Berry and David Nolan, who got their ideas from romancing things from they've read from Starship Troopers and everything else. Even Ayn Rand said she's not a libertarian, even though modern libertarians like to use her books as the basis for an example of a libertarian society. Because she even said that what the Libertarian Party said is not true libertarianism. It's actually socialism and anarchy. It's another form of socialist anarchy. That was back when she was still alive. Yes, I know a lot of history. But anyways, I ramble. But going back to what I was talking about with justified grounds of, Steam being restricted as, unfair trade and trading on restrictive terms, right? In practice, similar. Well, I already talked about that. Still, but the point is that part hasn't been addressed formally, the antitrust violation. But that's literally what's going on here. Is people don't like something, they find it disgusting, right? Even No Mercy it's called a spade here, right? They even said they condemned the actual use of it. They called out without naming certain people that they've been lied and they lied and used certain games that's not related to their game. All that kind of stuff. And they condemn those type of things and they find it disgusting too. All right. And I've also pointed this out. What about House on a Hill? I think it's House on a Hill. Hills Have Eyes. It's another one, right? The rakes, Rakes, of Euphoria. Those all talk about that. Those are art. And they're protecting their free speech. Well, what if all of a sudden they decide to get rid of that? They destroyed statues. We've seen that before. They even destroyed a statue of a freed slave who was an abolitionist. What was his name? It was a black dude. I can't remember his name right now. I'm just getting late. But they've done that. They tried to erase history. Just pointing that out there. Just pointing that out there. Where does it stop? The funny mustache man and his party, when they seized power, the first thing they did was censor art and media journalists. They had to use Aesopian words like what I'm using. Aggressive loving. Anything they found, they sterilized art. John Denver, the guy who wrote, I think it's John Denver, He wrote Country Road. Country Road, Take Me Home. At the PMRC, he even said that censoring music like that was literally the same as what Funny Mustache Man did in World War II. But through from the course of human history, things that we had not found, that we found unfurthering, to quote John Denver, things that we have found unfurthering in our pursuit of liberty and freedom and equal rights, we've eventually discarded over time. But we've learned from them, so we don't repeat those mistakes. And his argument was, eventually people might find this type of music as not, approvable, and people won't remember it. People will move on to something that's better and more glorious. But when you try to force that on people, when you try to censor that on people, when you try to make someone do something they don't want to do, they'll go the opposite way. For example, I don't want to have to talk about this. I'm a Christian. But I respect people's rights. I'm a true Christian. Just because you don't believe as I do does not mean I should force myself on you. That's not what the Bible says. There are people that have used the Bible to do whatever they want. John De La Rose is a perfect example. The Prohibition, perfect example. The Crusades, perfect example. The Crusades was not Christian. It was to reclaim Roman lands from by the East Empire, the Byzantine Empire. They solidified themselves as true Rome. They wanted to rebuild the Roman Empire. And the church still answered to the Byzantine Empire at the time of the First Crusade. A lot of that stuff is Hollywood trope. Some of it is true, some of it is not. But it's easy to blame the Christians because of the Holy Roman Empire. When the Holy Roman Empire used it, and even Emperor Constantine used Christianity and created Christianity as a solidification that he is emperor by will of God. Divine right. Which the Bible does not say, yeah, Constantine is the emperor. It says respect your government. Follow the law. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But God is the ultimate authority. Anyways. But we still had that problem, right? But would it surprise you, and I've said this in Dragon Cast, I'm just going to wrap this up because it's getting late. It's almost 1 a.m. here. That there was a case back in 2012 where a conservative judge, a Catholic even, ruled on a case called Brown versus the Entertainment Merchants Association, or Brown versus ESMRB, right? And in it, they found that games are art and deserving of free speech. Justice Scalia, right here, this guy, says, yes, it's court affirmed a lower court order and opinion by Justice Scalia, like to protected books, plays, movies that preceded them, video games, communication ideas, even social messages, through many familiar literature devices. I even gave you an example of that. That changed my perspective on homosexuality. I still don't like it, but I respect people's right to do so. I respect that. I respect their choice and their expression. Such as characters, dialogue, plot, and music, and through features distinctive to the medium, such as the player's interaction with the viral world. That is suffice to confer First Amendment protection. Justice Samuel Alito concurred in judgment, joined by Chief John Roberts, who also believes a conservative judge. And you got Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sotomayor, who are liberal judge or progressive judges, right? So, while Clarence Thomas and Steffenberg dissent and say they disagree. So if games are free speech, right, then that means that certain games, no matter what their content are, can be made and played, right? You can play games that certain bears that drive white vans and offer free candy to children would like. Actually, no. There is something called a Miller's test. Miller's test, according to Free Speech Foundation, is the primary legal test for determining whether an expression constitutes obscenity. It is named the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Miller versus California. Basically, this guy was sending lewd drawings, kind of like hentai. I said it, so oops. And basically, he was sending these things to his mom, this restaurant, and stuff like that. Women engaged in sexual activities. Chief Justice, however, in the trial, outlined that he calls these guidelines for jurors in obscenity cases. These guidelines are the three prongs of the Miller test. They are: whether the average person applying contemporary community standards would find the work, taken as a whole, appeals to the prudent interest. Whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct specifically defined by the applicable state law, and whether the work, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, or political or scientific value. If it has no value, it's obscene. Now you know why they're trying to make child porn normalized, so then they can have it. And then you have these other people saying, "Oh no. But the thing is, it's like children can't consent to these things. Therefore, the parents decide until they're of age what they can and cannot consume. And if a parent shows this stuff, it's child abuse. I decide what my child can watch, not you, not them. I decide what my child. You decide what your child does. No one can dictate it. It's my right as a parent. You're right. But here, I'm responsible for keeping my child from this. Miller, he wanted a national obscenity standard, not local. He argued there should be a national obscenity standard not based on a local community standards, but that the majority agreed, famously writing that it is neither realistic or constitutionally sound to read the First Amendment as required by the people of Maine or Mississippi accept public depictions of conduct found tolerable in Las Vegas, New York. What we find because people don't understand, like in America, right? Each state has its own culture. We're like city-states in Greece. Each state is its own sovereign thing. And because of that, we have our own cultures, our own dialects, our own beliefs, and everything like that. So what we believe in one state could be different in another state. But we still have guidelines of what would be considered obscene. Right? And there is a definition in the law. Human shit show. Hello, PooTube sucks that came here. Okay, that's fine. You can watch me wherever you want. A platform, to me, a platform is a platform. Until I get kicked off one, which I wouldn't be surprised if Rumble kicked me off, because I'm saying a lot of naughty words as well that they don't like, even though it's free speech. Yeah, they don't like this topic. Obscenity is a category of speech that is unprotected by the First Amendment's freedom of speech and expression protections. Obscenity laws are concerned with prohibiting lewd or extremely offensive words or pictures in public. All 50 states have individual laws controlling obscenity. And they talk about the obscenity law. For example, child porn violates all three parts of the Miller's test, and making or distributing such material is a crime. In New York versus Freiburg, the Supreme Court limited the application of Miller's test for child porn to sexual conduct as adequately defined as applicable state law, as written or authoritative construed, in addition to the elements of scienter. So, that's the reason why John De La Rose, when he doesn't like something, literally goes and says, it's child porn and should be removed. However, if that game was made as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was made as child porn, as he alleged, for example, in America, the developers would be arrested by now because they know better. It's illegal. It wouldn't even make it to Steam because Steam would have to review it and report it to the United States. You know, the federal government. They had to by law. But since it was in Europe, the Europeans also had their own laws on that. And when it comes to America, it still has to go through all these checklists and guidelines and standards. I'll try to pull it up off screen. But we talked about it a while back on Dragoncast. But that's why they do that. Plus, all these activists, they like to say, won't someone think of the children? And bring up the children. But if we look on Collective Shut like we did on Dragoncast, we'll find out on their website. When you dig deeper, they don't mention anything about the aggressive non-consent love towards men by women or other men. They don't talk about the exploitation of boys. They just talk about girls. They're a feminist website. They don't care about men. They don't care about children as a whole. They don't care about human rights. They only care about women and censoring what they find offensive. Right? So they'll use this to justify all that. But in reality, the law, they notice, is not on their side. Right? So give me a second to pull this up. Where was it at? Oh, I lost it. Let's Fitz will have it. And I just pulled a brain fart because I can't remember what I was looking for. Go figure. But you know what? We'll just. I can't find it. I just pulled a brain fart too because I forgot the title of it. So I'm not gonna be able to find it if I wanted to. But games have always been censored. They started. They first Japan and them started with anime and manga artists who were also some of them also were commissioned to make concept art and character designs for video games, and then they went after DL site. And now they're going after Steam and Itch.io. It's like that one phrase from World War II. First, it came after the Jews. But I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the homosexuals. But I didn't speak up because I wasn't a homosexual. Then they came for... It goes down the list until finally he says, then they came for me. But no one was there to. But no one spoke up because there was no one left to speak for me. My belief is, I may not agree with your right to do things, but I may not agree with you on certain things, but I'll defend your right to the death. That's how I always been. That's why I was a soldier. Freedom fighter, you're fine. You're fine. Not everyone has something to say. It's okay, man. You don't have to apologize to anything. Oh, you'd be surprised, human show. You'd be surprised. I tried streaming The Witcher 2, forgetting that Trish shows her ass, and there's a cutscene with a nipple. And you might like the Goon Room. Shout out to Goon Room, Mikey Doucette. He's one of my friends. We stream games together online every night mostly. But he has an extensive library of adult video games. And he has every right to do that. And I don't lie. I have subversion some too myself. We've, for transparency here. But like I said, I don't play the games to jack off to them. I play the games because I find them artistically and value to me. I find them interesting. Yes. You'd be surprised at the games I've actually played offline. You'd be surprised at the games I actually know. But continuing on, right? There are laws in place that dictate whether Steam can have them on their platform. and if Steam was selling those games and it was illegal, Steam would get in trouble by the law. These people aren't the law of the land. They have no right. Those credit cards that you have is not Visa or MasterCards. It's the card you get is approved by your bank or the creditor that you go with. Visa and MasterCard leases their payment processing system to those companies, so you're approved before you even get a credit card. And it tells the banks, the system tells everyone that uses your card if you had the funds or if the card was stolen. So if you have an available credit in your card, like if you have $5 or not, and whether or not the card was stolen, it'll come up as that. That's all Visa does. They can't even they shouldn't even be allowed to dictate your credit pool that you have, your credit limit, and what you spend on it. Right? They can't dictate. Okay, the bank says that you have $5,000 credit limit, and you're spending $20 on it for a illusionary game, a game from Illusionary Games. That's a popular one. Honey Select. Go with that one. Right? They can't. It's a legal game. Was allowed to be sold on the market just as easily as it could be sold in certain stores. Right? Those stores might have to like hide it, from certain viewpoints. Right? Just like Playboy. Right? If you can see a Playboy magazine, it has the nudity covered up so children don't see it. Right? And in certain states, they have to put them behind the counter or something like that so kids can't grab them, just like with cigarettes. I remember when cigarettes used to be accessible. Like I could reach it off and get off the shelf. There was vending machines for cigarettes, all kinds of crazy things. Funny thing, right? But there are laws in place. And if they violate the law, you report it to the law. But just because you don't like what they do doesn't give you the right, by law, as we're learning, to dictate what people can do. If you don't like the fact that you're a bean counter and you're counting something that people are buying that you don't approve of, then maybe you need to step down, write your letter of resignation, and let someone else take the job. Because at this point in time, you're worthless. You're not a bean counter. You're not in it for focusing on your business. Right? These Karens need to be shut down by Australian law. They need to be shut down for violating people's rights. They're a huge human rights violation. Visa as well. But the thing is while Collective Shout is doing it to dictate people what they can and cannot say for political reasons, Visa's doing it through corporate greed. They want to control what you can and cannot do for their own selective purposes. And the UN allows it. The United Nations allows Visa to get away with what it's doing. And when people go against it, that's what he said. They'll keep doing it. Oh, yes, I played that game. There's another one that's like a Pokemon game. It's a Monster Girl game, but it's a Pokemon game. I forget. It's like something of the Nephilim. I won't say it out loud, but something of the Nephilim. Right. And I've also am very familiar with certain Skyrim modding sites, shall we say. I've been down the Skyrim rabbit hole many times. I like to see what people do, and some things I'll never ever touch again. Some of them I've actually purged my computer 5 times in factory resets because I was like, "Oh, this is horrible," and I tried to bleach my eyes and it didn't work. Like so many things. I've known a lot, but I respect people's rights as long as it's not illegal. With that being said, everybody, it is late. My throat is getting kind of dry again, but I just wanted to cover this. And I know it's long. I might try to cut some down for video segments. But I don't know when I'll do another Lavistro Rants because this is the first time I'm doing this. I do have Dragon Cast where I go with other panels we cover these type of things. But I might make this once a month if people like this, like me going off on rants like this, and I'm still gonna keep it close to games. So maybe a month from now, maybe another game will set me off, or maybe a week. Who knows? Lavistro Rants will be whenever I want to rant about something. Oh, I'm not gonna highlight that, but yeah, ow. There's another game with a certain guy with a certain beard that has the last name that starts with an M. It was on a certain beanie podcaster, not anymore, because he said certain things. But that being said, I'm gonna let y'all all go. The outro is gonna be rolling. If you subscribe to me on YouTube and you don't see your name in the credits, it's probably because you kept your subscriber count private. But I do like to acknowledge everyone who subscribed to me because I'm trying to keep y'all immortalized in as my first 500 subscribers. That being said, I will try to Valkyria Winter. Hello. We are about to wrap it up. But we found some news about Japan that we covered, including Visa's connections to UN and the UN protecting Visa's monopoly in Japan. But everyone else, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. YouTubers, definitely let me know if you subscribed so I can register y'all in the credits. My Rumble viewers, as the credits are rolling, stand by. I like to try to rate another gamer. So I will be rating a gamer, a random gamer that might be live right now. And y'all have a good night. You're still here. What? You thought there'd be a post-credit scene or something? This isn't a Disney movie. Show's over. Go get some sleep. Play a video game. Watch another YouTube video. I gotta take care of the Dragon Wing and possibly get some sleep myself. Goodbye all, and thanks for watching. And happy gaming.